here, and I'm going to beat the coaching topic to death. Sorry, but there's more I want to add to it, even though it's already been overanalyzed. I'll break down the categories. This idea that not having a coach at this point in the season is just unheard of and something that LeBron is going to have to overcome. The shocking disrespect that players in general have for coaches, and LeBron's disrespect for coaches, and a few things I heard on the talk shows while I was jogging this morning. Here we go. Let's start with some garbage that I heard this morning that made me finally decide to release the coaching episode. It's our friends at Horseshit First.
It's a hell of a gamble for the end of LeBron's career.
LeBron's career as a basketball player ended a long time ago. The last several years have been a soap opera of the Lakers franchise destroying itself, bending over backwards, trying to find a miracle way to drag this worthless piece of crap along with them, and trying to justify all of it by making the franchise relevant, which is silly if you want to claim that the Lakers franchise needed help being relevant. LeBron James as a player is not your key piece to winning. So stop talking as if you have to make the best of this important player's last years. You're destroying the franchise is what you're doing in an effort to appease someone who should have retired a long time ago.
It's Hollywood. It's a compelling story.
Well, so it's a compelling story, and so much of the Lakers business is based on compelling
yes.
stories.
Okay, how do you real Laker fans feel about that narrative? Not LeBron fans, actual Laker fans, because I feel like it cheapens the franchise. Yes, it does exist in LA, Hollywood. Stars go there. You have the history of how Bus formed it and the entertainment aspect behind it. But at the core, the product was still winning basketball. That's what sold seats and merchandise. The idea that another gimmick, a podcasting bestie being the head coach, is going to boost ticket sales is sad. And if it's real, it tells you how far the sport itself and the Lakers franchise has fallen. It tells you what kind of people are in the stands. That's a dumb reason to watch basketball.
When they were interviewing Dan Hurley, LeBron reached out to Dan to tell him he would have his support and his buy-in if he were there.
That's Nick saying that LeBron might have actually wanted Dan Hurley there more than Redick. Now, what he's missing, and no one else has mentioned, is maybe this is where it all went wrong. Because Hurley's not a dumb guy. And I imagine he could hear the disingenuousness of LeBron's voice, see through LeBron's bullshit. I mean, if he's been watching LeBron's career at all, he already knew the problem. So LeBron saying, I'm going to give you my support, isn't worth a lick. It's not worth anything. In fact, it could be taken as a warning sign that you're not going to get his support. Now listen to Nick's very next words. I think he needs to listen to himself sometimes.
He has not chimed in with the Lakers front office. He is staying out of it.
That's Nick Wright talking about LeBron James, insisting that LeBron James is staying out of the coaching process, which is as absurd and delusional as it gets. LeBron James is the reason that you don't have a coach right now. So that already makes him part of the process. And guess what you just finished talking about? LeBron James reaching out to one of the prospective hires. Is that staying out of it? Do you hear yourself, Nick Wright? But even before that blunder, just the idea that LeBron James had nothing to do with the Lakers considering J.J. Redick is as preposterous as can be. What other teams were looking at J.J. Redick? When did J.J. Redick announce himself as an available coach and teams said, yeah, I might be interested? You did not hear about that at all. The first thing you heard was that the Lakers were suddenly interested in J.J. Redick, someone that no one no one knew was interested in a coaching job, except for his podcast buddy, whom they already discussed over a glass of wine.
Do you think they'll still do the pod?
That would be awesome.
That would be. You know what? You know what?
No, you can't.
Why not?
You
can still do the pod.
There is
Pod.
no way you can do that.
Okay, well, I don't know.
Why? It would be awesome.
Think about how many.
Why should you?
Brew?
The Kelsey brothers do a pod.
Yeah.
Draymond does a pod.
Oh,
it's new
man.
media.
It's amazing how much disgustingness these guys fit into a few seconds. I wanted to hit pause multiple times through that. Okay, so what was the first thing? Oh, the very notion of them continuing to have a podcast while JJ Redick is coaching the Lakers. I'll come back to that one. The fact that they would actually say that that's awesome is disgusting. And number 3, the justification that was given at the end, well, blah, blah's doing it, and blah, blah's doing it, and blah, blah's doing it. This is a reflection of society. This is a negative influence. This is telling the world that your behavior should be based on someone else's behavior, not whether it's right or wrong, not whether it's the best thing for the franchise, for the team, but hey, someone else is doing it, so I should get to do it too, which brings me to the biggest point. The fact that they would even consider doing the podcast, continuing to make that a priority on any level, in the middle of a season in which you are supposedly trying to correct the wrongs of the past. So just like these guys said on this show, oh, LeBron's career is almost over. Well, you're going to take that seriously by spending time getting to the podcast booth and talking about what you want to talk about in between games. And now I really want to talk about Darvin Hamm, because we all knew it was bad. We all knew it was disrespectful, but only now did I really think about the fact that they were in the playoffs and Darvin Hamm's job was on the line. And your star player, who's supposed to be the guy, the X factor that gets you over the hump in tough games, you know, the guy who's so locked in, so dedicated to his craft, so dedicated to winning, that the only thing he wants to do is prepare for the next game and be the guy at the end of the game that makes that tough shot because he's mentally prepared. That is the exact opposite of what LeBron James was. I can prove that LeBron James is the reason that the Lakers lost. And that's the guy who's off podcasting. And a little bit later, the coach is fired. And then LeBron James's buddy that he was off podcasting with is the new hire. And you put all that together, that is more than a slap in Darvin Hamm's face. Because you could have done better in the playoffs. Did you show the world or the team or your coach or the franchise that that's where your head was at by going off and doing your arrogantly titled Mind the Game podcast, which seemed largely to be dedicated on trying to fix LeBron's past, damage control, try and save his image by providing excuses for what went wrong and throwing more people under the bus? He's doing that. That's where his brain is at. While his team is fighting for their lives in the playoffs. Holy shit, what a despicable piece of crap LeBron James is. Imagine being the coach of a guy like that. Can you imagine Michael Jordan telling Phil Jackson, yeah, I'm going to be gone for a little bit. I'll arrive back shortly before the game. I got to go do a podcast, throw some people under the bus. I mean, Michael Jordan would be the one chewing out teammates who went and did that. And you think that that makes Michael Jordan an asshole because he's respecting the game and the team and his coach's future enough to not go and do that and focus on winning? And that's going to lead me nicely into talking about what Brian Windhorst said.
I think the most important thing that he could probably bring is that he has LeBron James' respect walking in the door.
Okay, I can stop you right there, Wendy, because the idea that players should be allowed to wait and decide later if they're going to respect the coach is already fundamentally flawed. You don't have to like the coach. You don't have to know anything about the coach, but he is your coach. It used to be partially, that's your elder and he's in charge of you. Nowadays, they don't necessarily even have to be the elder. But go back to high school, or those of you who played even in college, and imagine your locker room if the team didn't respect the coach. And maybe you guys have experienced that. Did that end with success? And I'm not talking about a coach that loses the respect. I'm talking about a bunch of entitled shits that think it's their right to not respect the coach until they've decided to respect the coach. That's the first problem. The second one is, does LeBron actually respect JJ Redick? Because there's a difference between using a yes man that has some talents, has some positive assets, such as JJ Redick does, and use those things to your advantage. That is not the same thing as respecting somebody.
You said he had 5 rookie head coaches. Well, not all of them were created equal. I don't think David Blatt, as decorated as he was in Europe, ever had a chance from day one with LeBron.
Does Windhorst even realize what he just said about LeBron? Blatt was a good coach, and Blatt was a successful coach. I think Self-Researched Basketball Facts channel did a great one about the success of the coaches that LeBron has gotten fired, and Blatt was one of them. And he had a great record, actually, with the Cavs. And forget all that. Let's focus on the fact that Windhorst said he never had a chance, no matter how decorated he was, no matter how much success that he had coming over from his previous location. How? That means that there's something wrong with LeBron James if someone is already doomed before they arrive. That's not on the coach. That's on the player. Windhorst just said that LeBron James is a coach killer without even meaning to.
In the NBA, if you don't have your stars respect, I don't care if you are the greatest coach in the history of the sport, you will not succeed.
Again, Windhorst, do you even hear what you're saying? And this goes back to my first point about what Windhorst was saying. Who the hell are you players to decide that you don't have to respect the coach? Especially, Windhorst just said, the most successful coach ever? I don't care if you're the most successful coach ever. If you don't have your team's respect, that team had better have an attitude adjustment before that coach walks in the door. Because if there's anyone in that locker room who thinks that they don't have to respect the most successful coach ever, Windhorst said that. The most successful coach ever. In what way does the most successful coach ever not deserve respect? You don't even have to see the name. You don't have to have watched him coach. You don't have to know if he's black, white, purple, yellow, or if he speaks a language you don't understand. If he's the most successful coach ever, you'd better make some adjustments for him. God, the negative message that Windhorst just perpetuated to any youth listening, the idea that the players get to decide who stays and who goes, whether or not we're going to respect the coach or not. And a lot of you in the comments have mentioned that you've experienced this, that you've seen your own kids start to act like that and you had to put them in line, or you've tried to coach and have experienced this, or maybe you heard Christian Laettner, couldn't think of his name. Did you hear the interview with Christian Laettner talking about the difficulties of coaching now? They don't want to learn. They don't want to play defense. They just want to chuck up threes and complain. My God. The coach is the person who should be able to break that attitude and change them, and you have taken that away from the coach. If you take that away from the coach, it almost becomes pointless in having a good coach. What you're really saying is you want a coach who's going to be compliant to your stars. Well, that's not coaching. That is a face, that is a figurehead, that is someone to pretend that you have a head coach when in fact someone else is running the show. So, if that in fact is the case, JJ Redick is the perfect choice. Because whether LeBron James respects JJ Redick or not, JJ Redick is not going to do anything that LeBron James doesn't approve of. They'll go and have a glass of wine together, and JJ Redick will realize by the end of the glass of wine that he does agree with LeBron James, whether he agrees with LeBron James or not. The last part was going to be in my double standards part 2, but I'll just throw it into this coaching episode. Next topic is all the emphasis that ESPN has put on how terrible it is that the Lakers franchise has not gotten a coach. Now, they started saying this back in May, and they acted like they're the only franchise that has ever done something so terrible. Now, keep in mind, they were saying this stuff back in May. They were already complaining about this in May. We still have the Cavaliers without a coach. We now have the Pistons without a coach and the Lakers. But you already knew all that. Did you know the Nets didn't get their new coach until the end of April? And that's significant when you consider that they've had an interim coach since February. The Suns didn't hire Mike Budenholzer until May 11th. The Wizards got their new coach May 29th. Charlotte hired Charles Lee May 9th. It's actually all very boring information. I only mention it because the media was trying to present it as though LeBron James was suffering again at the hands of the Lakers franchise, something that no other players ever experienced. I don't even know why it matters. You know, they were trying to make a big deal that the coach might not be there before the draft. When do the coaches ever get a say anymore? You know, the superstars demand the max contract or demand a trade to somewhere else, or the stars on the team, like LeBron James, say who they want and demand who they want. They listen to the players more than the coaches when determining what the next roster is going to be. But in this case, maybe that's different because JJ Redick is just an extension of LeBron James. So if LeBron James goes to JJ and says, this is what I want, then it's the coach giving input, but it's really LeBron James giving the input. Is this going to be the fake narrative that Nick Wright clings to going forward, that LeBron James is staying out of it, when in fact Redick is nothing more than his puppet? Anyway, that's enough on the coaching. Were there any fresh thoughts in there? I was trying to come up with some things that I hadn't heard yet or that particularly disturbed me. All right, thanks for listening. Catch you on the next one.